Outgoing Agriculture Secretary William Dar warns incoming President Bongbong Marcos of a tough task ahead, especially with Marcos Jr.'s plan to bring down the price of rice to 20 pesos per kilo. PUV drivers are crying for help as the government's fuel subsidy program ends in more than 100 routes in Metro Manila. Bus drivers and operators are joining the call for a fare hike as they push for a 15 peso minimum fare for ordinary buses and 20 pesos for air-conditioned buses. The rollout of booster shots for minors aged 12 to 17 begins today. And after 65 long years, the NU Lady Bulldogs have finally won the UAAP Women's Volleyball Championship. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's everything you need to know as you jumpstart your day. I'm Charles Lejano. President-elect and incoming Agriculture Chief Ferdinand Marcos Jr. will be in for a challenging time in the department. That's according to outgoing Agriculture Secretary William Dar. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez has the details.
Outgoing Agriculture Secretary William Dar says that while he's supportive of President-elect Bongbong Marcos's goal of bringing down the price of rice to 27 pesos and 50 cents, seems to be the furthest we can go right now.
The nearest we can go by now, 27 pesos 50 centavos. To be more practical with the setting we have in the country, by the end of 6 years, that will be a formidable legacy of the administration.
Marcos announced earlier this week he was taking over the Agriculture Agency for the time being. Samahang Industriya ng Agrikultura or SINAG said it was the most welcome development. But the challenges, it says, will be gargantuan. The DA has long been warning of a food crisis, brought about by the twin problems of the war in Ukraine and continuing pandemic. It predicts food prices across the board will continue to increase in the coming months.
This coming 6 months, the main reason is the increase in production costs. The increase is about average of 3.13 pesos per kilogram of rice. So tumaas na talaga.
Based on the DA's estimates, in order to bring down the price of rice to about 20 pesos a kilo immediately, the government will need to provide around 245 billion pesos in subsidies.
If the price of palay is 19 pesos, which is the NFA support price, that means in the retail market, it will become 38 pesos. That means the price difference that you have to subsidize is 18 pesos. The budget of the Department of Agriculture, unfortunately, is only this year 85 billion.
Secretary Dar says they've come up with suggestions on cutting prices to the level that the incoming president wants.
We are more than willing to brief and assist President-elect Marcos in our joint aspiration to attain food security and ultimately food sovereignty.
But at the same time, Marcos has already indicated he wants to reorganize the agency. He pointed out that were offices under the DA that were underutilized and needed to be quote, retooled. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez, We Are One News.
Meanwhile, United Broilers Raisers Association President Attorney Bong In-Chong said he will give incoming President Marcos Jr. the benefit of the doubt once he heads the Agriculture Department. Speaking to 1PH, In-Chong noted that while Marcos Jr. has no experience in agriculture, what will be expected of him is to lead a department and other administrative matters. In-Chong added that since Marcos Jr. had already led a province before as governor, he already has experience in managing a government body.
Yung issue sa Department of Agriculture, hindi yung agriculture per se, yung paano magtanim ng palay, paano mag-alaga ng manok, paano mag-alaga ng baboy. Talagang hindi kaya yan ni Pangulong Marcos at wala siya karanasan dyan. Pero yung management ng isang departamento, naging gobernador siya, ang presumption namin, giving him the benefit of the doubt, kaya niya yan dahil tumanga na naman siya ng isang lalawigan.
Thousands of PUVs have delisted from the LTFRB on the back of soaring prices of fuel. Bus drivers are also now calling for a minimum fare hike from 11 pesos to 15 pesos. Gerard de la Peña has the details.
This is Rodolfo's one and only meal for the day. The jeepney driver is trying to make ends meet as he only nets about 200 pesos per day. From his earnings, he has to set aside more than 2,000 pesos for fuel and 500 pesos to pay for boundary.
Yung almusal ko na lang po, kape na lang po. Hanggang doon na lang. Tapos nagtataga ng titiis.
Some jeepney drivers rely on the government's fuel subsidy program. But this ended last week in 118 jeepney routes in Metro Manila. Subsidy for 28 more routes will also conclude by next week. It aims to extend the provision of free rides at the EDSA bus carousel by end July or until funds get exhausted.
Ang service contracting program kasi natin under GAA 2022 ay magtatapos na din because of the exhaustion of funds. If there are assistance from the government na may ibibigay talaga, yun na muna, and the last resort would be the fare hike.
Bus operators are also joining calls for a fare hike. The Mega Manila Consortium asked the LTFRB for an additional 7 pesos that will bring the minimum fare to 20 pesos. They also asked the agency to raise the minimum fare of ordinary buses to 15 pesos from the current rate of 11 pesos. Commuters, however, admitted that it would be difficult for them should the free rides at the EDSA busway end coupled with the fare hike.
Mahirap lang po talaga. Kaya mag-adjust, magbabudget.
Siguro bira na lang ako sumakay.
Ganon.
Oo, tsaka yung kanto-kanto, lalakarin ko na lang.
The LTFRB said it will hear the petitions of jeepney and TNVS operators before the end of the month.
Hindi lang kasi to simple na kahilingan ng yung the usual before no ng mga because of fuel price increases ay nag-i-increase tayo. Kung hindi, it has something to do or it has already affected the supply on the ground.
The LTFRB noted that more than 5,000 public utility vehicles have delisted, while many others chose to temporarily halt operations due to soaring fuel prices. For News 5, Gerard de la Peña, We Are One News.
We'll be back with more stories after a quick break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. The Health Department will kick off the pilot rollout of booster shots for children aged 12 to 17 today, starting with those who are immunocompromised. The booster rollout will begin only in select hospitals in Metro Manila before extending to other parts of the country later this week. For those immunocompromised, the guidelines state that the interval between the second dose and the booster shot should be at least 28 days. And they're also required to bring their vaccination card, proof of affiliation, and medical certificate. Meanwhile, booster shots for children without comorbidities will be released on Thursday. The required interval between the second dose and the booster for non-immunocompromised kids is at least 5 months. And in total, some 9.4 million children are part of the 12 to 17 age group. For now, only Pfizer shots are allowed to be given to them as booster, but the DOH is also eyeing to get authorization to administer Moderna.
I was told nag-request ang Moderna, so we will have to wait for the EUA, and then pag may EUA na siya, i-assess na naman ng Health Technology Assessment if we can give Moderna.
The The NU Lady Bulldogs finally end the school's 65-year wait for their UAAP women's volleyball title. NU brought the championship trophy back to Sampaloc after sweeping the DLSU Lady Spikers in 2 straight games in the final series. It was the perfect end to a perfect season, with the Lady Bulldogs recording a rare 16-0 win-loss card. NU's Bella Belen also made history as the league's first rookie MVP, as she joins 5 other products of the NU girls volleyball program in this season's Mythical 6. Here are the stories to watch out for later today. The Philippine Coast Guard will have its showcase of assets to be deployed for the inauguration of President-elect Ferdinand Marcos Jr. And Ginebra will be squaring off with NLEX for the solo second spot in the PBA Philippine Cup. The game begins at 6 p.m., but before that, Converge will play against Terra Firma Jeep at 3 p.m. And that's how the day is shaping up to be. Join us later at 9 a.m. as we monitor the day's biggest stories from sunrise to sundown. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Just register for a free account at www.signalplay.com so you can stream One News live anytime and anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.